All right, everybody, let's get into Cancer. Let me share my screen, make this bigger. All right, so Cancer, we see Cancer between Gemini and Leo here. If you look a little bit, south and north, there's a lot of other constellations that if you have planets in Cancer, they will also align with those stars and other groups as well. But the major stars in Cancer, we have let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. About 8 major stars in Cancer, the brightest being Tarf here around 4 degrees. So if you have a 4-degree Cancer placement, that's like the canceriest of Cancer you can possibly be. Love it. The Cancer boundaries, honestly, like I might kind of relook at this to determine whether or not like I think the boundary I currently have for Gemini and Cancer might be like 1 degree off. So I am going to look into that a little bit more, making Cancer 1 degree bigger and Gemini 1 degree smaller, but I'm not entirely sure. And that's kind of, like everything's a little bit trial and error. And I think it would take specifically like talking to somebody that has those in between placements to really get a better understanding of what they deal with, what energy they feel like within their sun sign, because it can get a little bit challenging. But anyway, so cusps do exist for that reason. But yeah, let's get into Cancer. All right, so Cancer mythology, kind of interesting mythology, actually. So Cancer mythology is the giant crab, which you can see here. So this crab was sent by Hera during, well, we'll get into Hercules when we talk about some of the other constellations. I believe he has alignments to maybe like Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, but I could be wrong, so don't take that as gospel. But anyway, so Hera created this giant crab and sent it to go kill or distract and attack Hercules while he was battling Hydra so that Hydra could survive. But Hercules was a very, very strong demigod, and he was able to defeat this crab really, really easily. So the crab was very unsuccessful in its task. It was sent to distract Hercules and attack Hercules, which it tried to do, but Hercules kicked the crab into the sky to defeat it. Pretty simple. Like, it wasn't a major attack. So another story is that Hera placed the crab into the sky after it was crushed by Hercules. So either way, the crab was either crushed or it was kicked, and that is where we get the current mythology for Cancer, the crab, which, that story, it's not that great in terms of what Cancer, the crab, can bring to the table. Obviously, there are some other like spiritual meanings of crabs, but that is the mythology that we are dealing with here. All right, so Cancer astrological interpretations. If somebody has Cancer placements in general, it doesn't necessarily need to be aligned with one of those fixed stars. It's just if it is aligned with a fixed star. For example, if somebody's Mars is in alignment with a fixed star of Cancer at 4 degrees, that will be a lot more energy for that Mars placement than just, if your Mars was just floating around out in Cancer but wasn't in alignment with a major star. So Cancer astrological interpretations. These people are of the water. It is a water sign, so deals with very heavy, intense, emotional everything. They may have like an evil creator or mother. Hera is not a she might be a respected, but she's not well liked or she doesn't, she's it's like a respect out of fear versus a respect out of, like, oh, you actually like that person because you don't. Anyway, so this person, whoever has these natal placements in Cancer, they may have an evil mother or creator of some sort, or, come into contact. And that could even be, for example, like if you married somebody and their mom was a piece of shit, like that can easily kind of go over. Doesn't have to be like your parent, it could be somebody you deal with's parent too. All right, so may feel like they have a purpose they are unable to fulfill. And this is all subconscious, right? Because all of these archetypes, all of these stories are playing out within the subconscious of the collective, whether people know it or not, which is the pretty crazy part, right? Because a lot of people are just out here doing life, not aware that, oh, a lot of us are still playing out these stories, playing out these archetypes that need to be looked at for healing and maybe reinterpretation so we can bring different energy in. It doesn't mean that that energy didn't exist, but it can be, you know, transmuted and transformed into something that's a little bit more beneficial, right? So anyway, so cancers, people with cancer placements here, they may literally feel like they have a purpose that they don't know how to fulfill or are unable to fulfill based on the history of this archetype. They may face a lot of battles within their lifetime, and many situations will feeling them either like crushed or kicked to the side. So like devastating emotional situations, like crushed and then being, you know, kicked to the side, or like having somebody else chosen over you, or like being somebody's sidekick but not really like the main person. That can definitely be some of this Cancerian energy, and that can brew, you know, a lot of really kind of darker emotions then too with those feelings, because it's not like good vibes, right? And so don't get me wrong, like there's really, honestly, there's a lot of really cool alignments in Cancer energy, within Cancer energy, that if you have, we'll talk about later, like for example, if you have Lynx, or if you have what's the bear, I forget, but I'll remember once we get there. Or Ursa Major. So like you could have alignments there, which can completely, you know, have this Cancerian energy not feel as horrible. But for a lot of people, having Cancer energy is very, very challenging. They might often feel the need to defend themselves. They may harm others emotionally, on purpose or not. It could just be part of, you know, how their day goes, unfortunately. And then easily defeated, which can lead to giving up really easily, or if like one thing goes wrong, they might not want to continue because it just feels so overwhelming and like it's a very heavy energy having like Cancer energy. So the next alignment we want to look at is Monoceros. So Monoceros impacts Cancer from 0 degrees to 2 degrees. We do have, oh, well, I probably meant 3 degrees, because at 3 degrees, if somebody has a Cancer placement at 3 degrees, it will be in alignment with Monoceros. All right, so Monoceros, mythology and astrological interpretation. So in Latin, it means the unicorn. Yes, unicorns are / were real, depending on which timeline you're on, you know. So as we can see, this is a Siberian unicorn, massive tusk for a head. One second, gotta drink some matcha. I'm on the matcha train again. I got off the coffee train, thank God, but I lied. I had a pumpkin spice latte the other day because 'tis the season, but that, anyway, whatever. All right, astrological interpretations based on symbolism. Unicorns can represent purity, hope, healing, wisdom, forgotten knowledge. So these people with this placement, like Cancer with this, very intuitive people, very very good at magic, very good at being kind, very unique people as well, rare. Again, there is a black hole in Monoceros, so the ability to swallow you up with no return if you mess with them psychologically or physically. And then unicorns, yes, they are whimsical, wisdom, healing, unique, all these things, but don't forget that they will stab you with their head if they are too threatened, or if you are not vibing with them. They're very intelligent but violent if provoked, and very sharp words and very witty here too. All right, so another constellation that we have in alignment with Cancer here from 0 to 2 degrees will be Puppis, which if you watched the Gemini one, this will be a repeat of that energy, which is fine. All right, so Puppis mythology, it is the stern of a ship. All right, so the ship of Jason and the Argonauts sailed on this ship to get the golden fleece, which was the fleece of Aries the ram, which we talked about in the Aries video. All right. Was once part of Argo Navis, but separated into Carina, the keel, Vela, the sails, and Puppis, the stern, which is the largest of the three. As you can see here, we have Puppis, Vela, and then Carina down here. All right. Puppis astrological interpretation. So if somebody has, again, a 2-degree Cancer placement, then they would be aligned with this energy. Adventurous, movement forward, or just movement in general, maybe not forward. Another thing with crabs, I actually didn't write this in here, which I should have. So crabs with their legs, they don't move directly forward. They move from side to side. So if they're trying to get somewhere, they're usually going to take a very interesting path to, I'm trying to like crab leg it out. They're going to take an interesting path to get there. They're not just going to go straight forward. So keeping that in mind for yourself, and if you have Cancer placements, but also if you're dealing with a Cancer, just be like, okay, they aren't always very direct, right? They might make weird sideways moves until they can figure out exactly where they want to go, but they'll usually get there eventually. It's just not going to be a straight path, maybe like their opposite, a Capricorn might take. All right, so into travel, people might think that this person has very good advice or direction. Sterns keep the water out, so even though this person may have Cancerian energy, they might be perceived as unemotional or easily able to deal with emotional fluctuations, which would be a really positive thing to have, I think, helping somebody with Cancer energy navigate those emotional waters. And then usually motivated and able to provide self with forward movement. Love it. All right, this Lynx constellation, it has a lot of alignments here with Cancer, from all the way from 0 degrees to 19 degrees of Cancer. Lynx takes up all of it. Lynx also takes up a lot of Gemini here too. But if somebody has 6 degrees Cancer, 15 degrees Cancer, 18 or 19 degrees Cancer, they will also have an alignment with Lynx energy. All right, so Lynx. Oops. That's not what I wanted to do. All right, Lynx mythology. In Greek mythology, King Lynxus was taught agriculture, but then refused to teach his people, and then tried to kill the guy who taught him. So not the best king in the world. Yeah, the goddess Demeter turned him into a lynx as punishment, because she is, we'll talk about her once we get to Virgo a lot more. So if you are curious about the goddess Demeter, definitely check out the Virgo video, because there's a lot about her there. Her daughter is Persephone, just so you are aware. All right, the constellation is so dim that it could only be seen by a person with eyes of a lynx, so like really good eyesight. So a lot of these stars, again, are not that bright. The lower these numbers are, the brighter they're going to be, so they're not that significantly bright in comparison to others. Lynx symbolism, good eyesight and hearing. So this person, if they have these alignments, they may have these characteristics. Supernatural eyesight, and that can also be like third eye as well. Again, mixed with Cancerian energy. Cancers are already going to be intuitive and all of that. So if they have this Lynx energy, it's going to add to that significantly. Supernatural eyesight, unraveling of hidden truths, clairvoyance, vision, and remote viewing. Psychic spying. If you haven't watched the documentary, it's called Third Eye Spies. I highly recommend it. It's going to blow your mind. The first time I tried the third eye stuff, I literally found out who Jack the Ripper was, like with my own mind, and then I looked it up, and sure enough, that was a person that was a suspect on the list. I was like, no way, interesting. So definitely check it out if you haven't yet. And then it's called, again, Third Eye Spies. I believe it is on Amazon Prime if you have that. Not recommending Amazon, I'm just saying it's on there. Anyway, so some equate lynxes with tigers, and then tiger symbolism can also be Dionysus symbolism too. So that's interesting. Anyway, Lynx astrological interpretations. Let's see. So ability to learn, high level of information, hidden motives sometimes for these people. Not everybody can see what they see and lack the same vision as them, which can be really challenging sometimes, like literally or within the imaginative state. just unable to see the vision, see the creation, and then may not be willing to teach others what they know based on this King Lynx's debacle over here, hoarding knowledge for personal gain, because what King Lynx was trying to do was make himself, you know, the most important. Like he was the only one then that knew how to do this agricultural system, because he tried to kill the other guy. But crazy, right? Like imagine somebody teaching you everything they knew and then you go and try to kill them. Like, bro, get it together. Anyway, so may use someone for information and then turn on them. So not the best vibes, right? But hey, that is what it is. All right, next constellation we have in alignment with Cancer will be Pyxis. Pyxis? No one's sure, but anyway, all right. So somebody has 8 degrees, Cancer, excuse me, 10 degrees or 11 degrees. This will be it for them. All right, so the mythology and the astrological interpretations are kind of one and the same. There isn't too much mythology around this constellation, but it was originally Pyxis Nautica, the mariner's compass, a magnetic compass. It can stand for, or these people may be into exploration. They might attract things or be magnetic, because we all know that compasses use magnets to determine where they are in space based on the electromagnetic field. So this person might be good at understanding their own electromagnetic field or other people's or electromagnetic field interactions, which is, anyway, look into those if you're curious about it, 'cause it's a very fascinating subject. Exploration of darkness, which can also transfer over to exploration of the subconscious, or darker topics may find self or place self in the dark. So they might be very interested in those more taboo or subconscious, or the things that other people don't look at all the time, or maybe make other people uncomfortable, and then maybe challenging to find direction in life through the darkness. So they might kind of get stuck in the dark here, and that can be a very, very challenging place to be in general. I do think that water signs overall are a little bit more equipped to deal with darkness than maybe like a fire sign, but you know, doesn't mean it's not challenging. All right. And again, so for example, if you are like reading through these and you're learning about them and you're like, oh, exploration of darkness, that could also mean these other 12 things. Great, amazing. That means that's your own interpretation of this energy. And I love that. So, like, that's really what astrology and archetypes come down to, is like, okay, I can interpret this one way, but the next person's going to interpret it through their lens a little bit differently. And I love that, because that all creates a bigger, deeper story that everybody can relate to on a deeper level. So if you are inspired to create more astrological interpretations based on the mythology or the symbolism in general, I highly recommend you do that, because the more people we have doing that, the deeper our collective knowledge can be, and the more we can give people accurate information about who they are and like what energy is actually impacting them and how. Anyway, all right, Hydra. Very interesting constellation here with Hydra. This is the beginning of Hydra energy, but as you can see, Hydra aligns with Cancer, Leo, and Virgo. So very big constellation. Aligns with Cancer as the head of the snake, which, you know, has a lot of different meanings biblically and in a lot of different cultures. Hydra constellation alignments within Cancer energy. So there's 2 stars at 8 degrees, 9 degrees, 2 stars at 10 degrees, 11 degrees, and 16 degrees. All right. So Hydra. This is where things get interesting. I mean, not that things weren't always interesting, but I feel like Hydra energy, there's a lot of different myths and like this crater Corvus. There's a lot of different energies here, so very fascinating. Also, there's a little Felis down here that's a cat. It didn't like, they've changed different names, and like this Nautica over here, this owl, like they've changed a lot of constellations to be different than what they originally were. So if you want to ever look into that, that's very interesting too, to see, oh, okay, so this was once this and now it's this. Why? What can we interpret from that? How do we look at that? All right, so Hydra mythology, the big water serpent, dragon, snake. She's very, I say she because it's a woman, it's a she. I guess it's a feminine energy. Like nobody really knows exactly what it is because it's depicted. I mean, it could be shapeshifter, right? Of a serpent, dragon, or snake. It could be any one of the three. I see it as a little bit more of a snake than other things because there's a lot of other dragons within, like Draco, for example, within the constellations, but this is an interesting one. So Hydra is the offspring of Typhon and Echidna, 9 heads. Yeah, so 9 different heads. The number varies throughout different stories. Some she has 7, 9, 12, you know, it just depends on which one you want to look at. Hercules was sent to kill Hydra as one of his tasks because he wasn't supposed to be able to kill Hydra, is essentially what was happening, which we'll get into when we talk about Hercules. But yeah, he wasn't supposed to live through this, but he did. And every time he cut off one of the heads of Hydra, another head would grow in its place. Eventually, he realized that he needed to cauterize the wound so another head would not grow back, which means to put something very hot on it so that it just like burns over and isn't allowed to spring more heads out of it. Which, if you've ever seen the movie Hercules, I do believe there is a scene in there of Hercules killing Hydra. All right. Hydra had one immortal head, and that head Hercules cut off and buried under a heavy rock. All right. So that was the immortal head. Once that one was gone, they were all gone, and love that. So that is one myth of Hydra. The other myth here is Apollo sent a crow to get water in a cup for a sacrifice. The crow got to the water and noticed a fig tree, but the figs weren't ripe yet. So the crow waited a few days for the figs to ripen. He's like, I really want those figs. I'm going to stick around and wait. I don't really care that that makes me late for Apollo because these figs, though, right? And so the crow returned with a cup of water and also a water snake. And the crow blamed the water snake on being late and said it was blocking the spring. So the crow, being a little crafty crow, right? Corvus here, and then Crater here on Hydra. Corvus, the crow, was basically like, this was the snake's fault. Killed the snake, brought the snake with him. But Apollo, he kind of just like was smarter than Corvus and angered at the crow. He put the crow, the cup, and the snake into the sky. He's like, you know what? Fuck all of you. You guys are all going up there now. Like, I'm done with all of you, which is interesting. All right. So Hydra, astrological interpretations. If somebody has Cancer energy that is aligned with Hydra, the head of this snake, in no story is like Hydra a good character, right? It's pretty much always gonna be a bad time when it comes to Hydra. Generally evil and ill-intentioned, which if you've met a lot of Cancer people, now you'll know why they are like that. It's the combination of the crab and then also having this evil ass Hydra energy too. So harmful to others, multiple faces or identities shown to the world, two-faced, not genuine with their words and their actions. Cursed energy, honestly, their family may have been involved in very dark magic and like bloodlines, it's going to be a bad time because they've done so much fuck shit in the past. Poisonous can be seen as being toxic in behaviors, blocking others, or like, you know, being a block in their progress or their path. Being blamed by others could also be part of this if we're looking more at the Apollo interpretation. Destructive to self and others, and then legless, which a lot of the time, you know, it might be okay like in the water or whatever, but lacks the ability to move through the world properly or how one could normally. That could mean a lot of different things, right? That could mean mental health, that could mean physical health, that could mean just mindset, a lot of different things here. All right. So People, a lot of people with Cancer placements and also Leo placements have a really large link over here to Ursa Major, this massive bear in the sky. So if somebody is 8 degrees, 13 degrees, or 15 degrees of Cancer, this energy, so impacts Cancer from 8 degrees to 19 degrees. Again, if somebody has like 7 degrees or 9 degrees, you could still consider that as an alignment, you know, just based on how close it is. It's up to you. It's up to you. It's up to you and your client and what you feel and what they feel realistically. Because if you're like, yeah, you have Ursa Major alignments, they're like, I don't feel any of that. And it's like, all right, maybe you don't. So that's fine. All right, let's go to the next slide. All right. Ursa Major mythology. Not water, tea. Okay. Let me see. I think there's 2 different myths. Yeah. All right. The first myth, the great bear or the larger bear, Ursa Major. Myth 1. There was a nymph named Callisto who was a priestess of the goddess Artemis, who is Apollo's sister. We just talked about Apollo and how he put Corvus and Hydra and the cup into the sky, if you recall. All right. So there's a nymph named Callisto who was a priestess of the goddess Artemis, who is Apollo's I was gonna say twin sister, but I'm not sure if they're actually twins. So his sister, the one who killed Orion, which she didn't mean to, she just did. She actually kind of liked Orion, but that's not the point. Anyway, so part of Callisto's vow to Artemis was that she remain a virgin and took a vow of chastity. All right, so which is very common among the goddesses. If they had, you know, priestesses, they would give all of their energy to that goddess. Anyway, Zeus saw Callisto and fell in love with her, as Zeus would, because what the fuck. Anyways, Zeus and Callisto had a child, Arcus, and who's to say if this was like Callisto's choice or not? Probably not. Artemis found out that Callisto was pregnant and turned her into a bear. Callisto lived as a bear for 15 years, and then one day her son, remember she had a child with Zeus, Arcus. One day her son Arcus was found in the forest and came up to Callisto, but she was in the form of a bear. So he obviously got scared because he wasn't thinking like, this is my mom. He was thinking, this is a bear and I'm in the woods. He got scared and he quickly drew his spear to defend himself from this bear, aka his mom. So Zeus saw what was about to happen. And like, honestly, of all of the stories of Zeus, I like kind of like this one. Not like, because it was his own doing in the beginning that even like prompted another person to change him into a bear. But Zeus saw what was about to happen and he sent a large gust of wind to carry them both, so Arcus and Callisto, son and mom, into the heavens, placing Callisto in the sky as Ursa Major, and Arcus became the constellation Boots, which is associated with Virgo. In some interpretations, they say that Hera, Zeus's jealous wife, turned Callisto into the bear, but in this circumstance, it was Artemis who turned her into a bear. So either way, it was either Artemis or Hera, and Zeus finally was like, okay, I'm not gonna let this son kill his own mom because she's a bear, and he put them both in the sky, which, whatever. You can see that as good if you want. I'm just saying, like, Zeus just needs to leave people alone. You know what I mean? He just needs to leave people alone, but here we are. All right, myth 2. So Adrastea was one of the nymphs who raised Zeus as a child. Zeus's father, Kronos, or Saturn, was told by an oracle that one of his children would overthrow him. Because of this prophecy, Kronos would eat every single child that was born. Don't love that. So Rhea, Zeus's mother, who was tired of Cronus literally eating all of her children, tricked Cronus and was able to smuggle Zeus to Crete, where he was raised by the nymphs. There's a whole story behind that if you want to learn more about it. It's actually kind of an interesting story about swallowing a rock and Zeus saving his brothers and sisters and all of that. But anyway, so Adrastea, Ursa Major, and Ida, Ursa Minor, nursed Zeus for a year. Amalthea, a goat that nursed Zeus, was placed into the sky as the star Capella in the constellation of Auriga, which influences Taurus. Zeus did eventually overthrow Cronus, releasing his siblings Hades, Poseidon, Demeter, Hera, and Hestia. So a lot of really big energy when it comes to Ursa Major. Both of these myths are valid, I guess. Personally, I'm like this one a little bit more, but they're both go into the same thing. All right. Let's see. Yeah, so Adastrea, Ursa Major, the big bear, was one of the nymphs then who raised Zeus. Which maybe. All right, a little bit more mythology. This is a very old constellation. Okay, so there's a lot of different energies that can be put into this energy too. The Romans called this constellation Septentrio, which is like 7 plows of oxen, or an oxen with 7 plows. This has also been seen as a camel, a shark, a skunk and sickle, a bushel and canoe. Chinese have it as the government and the northern measure. And then in Hindu, it's the 7 sages. So a lot of really interesting, fascinating mythology that you can look into to get a little bit deeper of information behind Ursa Major. Again, very old constellation, very big constellation, has a lot of different energies associated with it. So take it as you see it. Ursa Major astrological interpretations. Again, please, please, please feel free to come up with your own interpretations for this too. But this is the basic interpretation. Motherly instincts, protecting her children. Like she didn't attack her son once she was a bear. Can be very protective, rebellious, protective. Again, I wrote may feel unjustly punished in general. Nurturing, may end up raising other people's children. That can be in a form of adoption, fostering, or taking care of kids within your own family. All right, so that is Cancer. Hopefully you guys learned a lot from it. Again, if you ever want to go look at this deeper, we have stellariumweb.org. You can look at Cancer, and then anything from like approximately right here on this line to a little bit in here on this line will be aligned with Cancer energy. So we can go up and see we have Lynx and Ursa Major. We can go down, so we have Hydra, we have Pyxis, Puppis, Monoceros. So yeah, a lot of interesting energies that are aligning here with Cancer. Next video will be Leo. Thanks for listening. I'm very interested to see if you guys have your own interpretations too. I'm sure as I speak, your brain's getting kind of jogged to like, oh, maybe this and maybe this. And yes, exactly. So, all right, next video.